Ladies and gentlemen, let me tell you something that'll set you free today. When you stop giving a damn, he starts losing his mind. Something they don't always teach you when you grow up trying to be nice, respectful, and liked by everybody. The moment you stop giving a damn, the power shifts. Not just a little bit, completely. I mean, the whole game changes. See, too many of us are walking around handing out our energy like candy at Halloween, giving away our time, our attention, our loyalty, our love, all to people who don't even know how to handle it. And what's worse, they start thinking they deserve it. They get so used to you showing up, checking in, cleaning up, holding it down, that they forget it's a choice, your choice. You giving them your best. But let me ask you, are they giving you theirs? Now watch this. The second you stop, when you just stop caring about their approval, about how they feel when you finally say no, when you finally decide I'm not doing this today, suddenly that person starts acting brand new, confused, shaky, nervous, because you've taken something they thought was permanent, your care, and reminded them it was always conditional. See, power didn't come from being loud, from cussing folks out, or being the most dramatic. No, real power comes from clarity. It comes from detachment, from saying, I know what I bring to the table and I ain't afraid to eat along. Let me break it down for you. A lot of people don't love you. They love the version of you that serves them, the version that always says yes, the version that don't speak up, don't argue, don't set boundaries, the version that tolerates the late replies, the lack of effort, the backhanded compliments. But when you stop giving a damn, and I mean when you really let go of that need to be liked, needed, or even loved by somebody who ain't showing up right, they panic. It's not because you're gone. It's not because they love you so deep they don't know what to do without you. No. They're losing their mind because they're losing control. Control over your emotions, over your reactions, over your time. And that right there is the biggest threat to anybody who is benefiting from your silence or your softness. You ever notice how some people don't really get shaken until you stop explaining yourself? They don't start changing until you stop calling. They don't start reaching out until you stop chasing. See, what's really messing them up isn't your distance, it's your peace. The fact that you're out here smiling, unbothered, doing your thing without them, that's what's driving them crazy. Because power, real power, lives with the one who needs less. When you show someone that their presence is appreciated but not required, that's when the game flips. That's when they realize, oh, damn, I was never in charge here. You want to know why people play with your emotions? It's because you showed them you'd still be there no matter how they moved. You forgave too quick, ignored too many signs, made too many excuses. And they clocked that. They filed that away. They started testing your limits because you didn't have any. But when you stop giving a damn, when you start walking away mid-sentence, when you don't even argue, when you start moving in silence, that's when they realize your love had value. Because when something is always available, people start thinking it's cheap. But when you remove it, suddenly it's rare. Suddenly they remember just how good they had it. Now they're texting you, hey stranger. Now they're telling people I messed up, but baby, that ain't regret. That's reality setting in. That's them feeling the absence of your energy. That's them realizing you're not their backup plan, you're not the emergency exit, you're the main prize. And they fumbled it. I'm not saying don't care about people. That's not the message. The message is care with standards, love with boundaries, give with wisdom. Don't let your kindness be mistaken for weakness, because every time you put someone ahead of your own peace, you're voting against yourself. And what kind of life is that? You deserve to be poured into the way you pour into others. You deserve to be chosen without begging, valued without performing, and respected without explaining. But that only happens when you believe you're worthy of it and when you're willing to walk away from anything that doesn't match that belief. So the next time someone wonders why you've gone cold, why you ain't texting back like you used to, why you're not showing up the way they expected, let them wonder. Let them sit in that silence. Let them feel what it's like to not have access to the version of you they took for granted. Because the moment you stop giving a damn, the power is back in your hands. And once you've tasted peace, real, unshakable, drama-free peace, trust me, you'll protect it like gold. And that's when he starts losing his mind. Let me tell you something that'll change how you deal with people for the rest of your life. People don't change until you do. That's the whole truth. You waiting on folks to wake up and treat you right? You waiting on him to finally appreciate you, respect you, talk to you like you matter? Baby, you're going to be waiting till your edges go gray and your spirit dries up. See, people don't just wake up one morning and treat you better because they saw the light. They treat you better when you start treating yourself better. Period. Now here's the catch. A lot of y'all are trying to change the outcome without changing the pattern. You want him to stop playing games, but you still pick up every time he calls. You want your friends to stop using you, but you still say yes even when you're tired and got nothing left to give. You want your boss to respect your time, but you're still answering emails at 9:30 p.m. like your name's on the building. Let me ask you this, why would anybody change if you haven't? Why would they treat you like a priority when you keep showing up like an option to yourself? Come on now, this ain't just about relationships. This is about how you let the world handle you. Because the way people treat you is just a mirror of how you treat yourself. If you let them cross your boundaries, if you keep making excuses for their behavior, if you keep shrinking to keep the peace, guess what? You're training them to see you as less urgent, less valuable, less important, and they act accordingly. Now you might say, but Steve, I love hard, I care deep. I get that, I respect that. But love without standards, that's not love. That's sacrifice. And you ain't supposed to sacrifice your peace, your worth, your dignity, just to say you kept someone around. If loving them means losing you, that ain't love. That's manipulation. That's survival mode dressed up like commitment. You want to see someone step up, you want them to finally act right, start acting like you ain't afraid to walk away. You got to be willing to lose people who ain't willing to meet you at your level. Because I promise you this, the moment they realize the old version of you is gone, they either rise to meet the new version or they fall off. And either way, you win. Now, I know that's hard to hear, especially if you're the type of person who sees the best in folks. You think if you just love them harder, wait longer, pray more, they'll come around. But let me help you with something. God can bless you through people, but he ain't going to bless you through mess. You don't get rewarded for staying in situations that disrespect your calling. You got to level up inside first. Change how you speak to yourself. Stop calling it loyalty when it's really fear. Stop calling it love when it's really lack. Stop calling it patience when it's really you avoiding the truth. Because here's the truth, when you change, the dynamic has to change. See, people can't keep playing the same game if you stop playing along. They can't keep ghosting you if you stop answering. They can't keep disrespecting your time if you stop making it available. You think they'll just wake up and realize they're wrong? Nah, They realize it when the consequences show up. And you are the consequence. Your growth is the consequence. Your silence is the consequence. Your new boundaries, your new peace, your no thank you when they come back around like nothing happened, that's the consequence. That's what gets their attention, not your tears, not your texts. Let me put it plain. People treat you how you treat you. When you raise your standards, when you stop settling, when you stop entertaining weak energy, you teach people that if they want to be in your life, they got to level up too. And if they don't, that's fine. That just clears the room for folks who will. You can't keep praying for peace and holding on to chaos. You can't want better and keep accepting less. Change starts with you, and you don't have to wait on anybody to get it. You don't need closure, an apology, or one last conversation. All you need is a decision to love yourself enough to stop begging, a decision to trust yourself enough to stop second guessing, a decision to honor yourself enough to walk away when it ain't right. Because when you change, when you really change, the whole room feels it. They start looking confused, wondering what happened, why you don't laugh at the same tired jokes, why you don't entertain the same drama, why you're not chasing, fixing, saving, because they were addicted to the version of you that needed them. And now that version is gone. And the ones who were using you, they lose you. The ones who were loving you, right, they match you. But either way, you don't lose. Not when you change first. So remember, people don't change because you want them to. They change when you stop letting them stay the same. And that starts with you. Let me tell you something. You probably already felt in your gut, but didn't have the words to explain. Silence is stronger than words. Now, I know we live in a world where everybody thinks they got to say something. You get hurt, you text 3 paragraphs. Somebody disrespects you, you feel like you got to go off. Somebody ghosts you, you go chasing, questioning, begging for closure. But let me give you something powerful. Sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is nothing. Let me say that again so it settles in your spirit. Nothing. No response. No text. No call. No explanation. Silence. Just space. Just peace. Because silence, oh baby, silence screams. Silence says everything your words would fumble to explain. Silence tells people, I saw what you did. I felt what you didn't say. And guess what? I'm not going to play myself by repeating the lesson you just gave me. See, silence is not weakness. It's not avoidance. It's not passive. Silence is a boundary. It's a weapon. It's a decision to take your energy back instead of wasting it on folks who don't hear you when you speak. Because some people, they don't listen to understand. They listen to respond, to defend, to twist your words, to gaslight you and make you feel like you're the problem for noticing the problem. But when you go silent, when you stop showing up, stop explaining, stop justifying, suddenly they start hearing you loud and clear. Let me tell you something I've learned. The ones who never appreciated your presence will start feeling your absence the moment you stop trying. That silence, it messes with them. They don't know what to do with it because they were used to your access, your softness, your care. They were used to pushing your buttons and getting a reaction. But now they get nothing. That eats at them. And the reason it shakes them so bad is because silence is final. See, when you're still talking, still arguing, still defending, you're still in it. You're still engaged. You're still hoping they'll change, still believing they'll understand. But silence, Silence means you've let go of the outcome. You've made peace with what is. You've accepted that they are who they are, and you're no longer willing to lose sleep over proving your worth to someone who didn't see it in the first place. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying hold a grudge. I'm not saying give the silent treatment as some kind of punishment. No. This ain't about revenge. This is about release. It's about protecting your peace. Because peace don't live where there's constant chaos. And sometimes the only way to stop the cycle is to stop talking. You don't need to explain why you're done. You don't owe them closure when they gave you confusion. You don't need to spell it out for somebody who ignored every sign along the way. Let your absence do the talking. Because silence is clarity. It says, I'm done arguing over things that should have never been questioned. It says, if you couldn't hear me when I was speaking with love, don't expect a speech when I leave in silence. You see, words can be manipulated, twisted, thrown back in your face. But silence is bulletproof. Silence can't be debated. It can't be denied. It just is. It speaks for itself. And if someone can't understand your silence, they never really cared to understand your words either. Now, here's what happens when you go quiet. They start wondering if you're really done. They start second-guessing themselves. They start realizing what they lost. And listen, if they never realize it, that's fine too. Because silence don't need an audience. Silence is for you. It's your way of saying, I'm not matching energy, I'm protecting mine. Because at some point, you get tired of talking to walls. Tired of bleeding for people who wouldn't even hand you a Band-Aid. Tired of screaming just to be heard. When your voice should have been enough. So you go quiet, you step back. You reclaim your time, your power, your identity. And that's when things start shifting. That's when people who thought you'd never leave start getting nervous. That's when they start sending just thinking about you texts and calling out of nowhere. Not because they've changed, but because they can feel the power dynamic has shifted. You're not reacting anymore. You're not fighting to be understood. You're done. And that is terrifying to someone who is feeding off your effort. See, people know when they've been mishandling you. They just count on your love to keep you from leaving. But when love turns silent, that's when they feel the loss. Not the loss of attention. The loss of access. The loss of your energy. The loss of knowing they could always get to you. Always trigger you. Always drag you back in. But not anymore. Because silence is sacred. Silence is strength. Silence is the grown folks' version of, I don't need this. You say nothing and everything changes. Let me tell you something you might have never heard in your life. Something that could set your whole spirit free. You do not exist to perform for people. You exist to live in peace. And let me be clear, peace is not something you stumble into by accident. Peace is something you have to fight for. You got to protect it. You got to choose it, especially in a world that's constantly trying to drag you back into chaos, confusion, and codependency. But a lot of y'all are out here performing like your value's on a stage, waiting on applause. You're showing up perfect, polished, saying yes when you want to say no, laughing at jokes that ain't funny, staying quiet just to avoid conflict, and then you wonder why you feel empty. It's because you've traded your peace for people's approval. And let me tell you, that's a bad deal. See, the performance always starts small. It's little things. You don't speak up when they offend you. You go to events you don't want to attend just to keep the peace. You act like you're okay when your spirit is breaking in half. But the problem is, when you start pretending just to please others, you disappear. You slowly become a version of yourself that is customized for them. And the more they clap, the more you perform. The more they cheer, the more you become addicted to the approval. Now you don't even know who you are outside of making people happy. But let me ask you this. Who makes you happy? Because if you got to sacrifice your peace to keep someone around, you're not in a relationship. You're in a prison. Now I get it. Some of y'all were raised to believe that peace means keeping quiet, that being a good person means putting everybody else first, that love means self-sacrifice. And look, I'm all about being kind, being generous, but not at the expense of your sanity. Not when you're pouring from an empty cup and calling it love. Not when you're pretending everything's fine just so they don't feel uncomfortable. That ain't peace. That's performance. And trust me, performing will drain you. You'll be smiling in public and crying at home. You'll be celebrated for being strong while nobody sees you breaking. And the worst part, the people you're performing for, they rarely care about the real you. They love the version of you that entertains them, serves them, fits their idea of who you should be. But what happens when you stop? What happens when you say no? What happens when you stop playing the role and just be real? Let me tell you what happens. They start falling off. And you know what? Let them. Because peace is worth more than applause. And being real is worth more than being liked. Here's the truth. When you choose peace over performance, you'll lose some people. But those are the same folks who only stayed as long as you were pretending. They were never for you. They were for what you did for them. That's not love. That's convenience. But when you stop performing, when you show up authentic, when you start honoring your own boundaries, when you stop doing things out of guilt, that's when your life starts to feel like yours again. That's when you sleep better. That's when your spirit gets lighter. That's when you wake up and don't dread the day ahead. Because peace ain't loud. Peace don't need validation. Peace don't need an audience. Peace is saying, I don't have to attend every argument I'm invited to. I don't owe you a performance of who I used to be. I love you, but I love me more. And let me say this to the people pleasers. I see you, I was you, but let me free you. You are not selfish for choosing peace. You are smart. You are not cold for protecting your energy. You are wise. You are not arrogant for honoring your truth. You are grown. At some point, you got to realize that you were not put here to live inside of other people's expectations. You were not created to constantly explain yourself, fix everything, smile through disrespect, and keep the peace while dying inside. That's not noble. That's not love. That's self-betrayal. So from this day forward, I want you to stop living on a stage. You don't need a script. You don't need a spotlight. You need peace. You need rest. You need joy that don't depend on how somebody else feels about you. When you stop performing, you get honest. When you stop performing, you get free. And when you get free, you start living a life that actually feels like yours. Not everybody will clap for that, but the right people will stay. The real ones will adjust. And most importantly, you'll finally stop clapping for the wrong damn audience.